Today's world is facing an enormous challenge. Within a century, the IPCC projects sea levels will rise up to 59 centimeters. In the longer term, sea levels may rise several meters. If we do not adapt now, the risk to coastal cities will rapidly increase. How will New York be affected by a rise in the sea level? Are the people in the metro really safe? What about Jakarta, a city that is sinking at the rate of up to 25 centimeters a year? And what about Rotterdam? Is it resting on its laurels, trusting its imposing storm surge barrier, or is it planning for the future?
That has definitely water, you can see. It is eroded by water.
Arctic climatologist Conrad Steffen has worked most of his life on the behavior of glaciers and ice sheets. In 1997, he noticed a significant change. The ice sheet and the glaciers started to move much faster towards the coast.
The latest IPCC report, the International Panel for Climate, actually predicts for by 2100 we'll have 50 plus centimeter sea level rise. This is actually a mean value which is only built on melt. That means how much ice is melting and running towards the ocean, and it includes all the glaciers, and the glaciers are currently the biggest contributor to melt. And then Greenland, Antarctica, and all these ice parts make 50% of the sea level rise out. The other 50% is the thermal expansion of the ocean, because if you warm the water, it has a bigger volume. And what we can see now is, when you predict to 2100, we already know today that more than 50% of the signal here in Greenland is by these fast-moving glaciers. That is not part of the IPCC prediction. Therefore, I would say the 59 centimeter is really the lower end of the prediction. It can easily be a meter, even 1.5 meters by 2100. And what is even worse, 2100 is not the end of our history. It continues to rise, and probably continues to rise at a faster rate than today.
New York, the Big Apple. Everyone wants to have a piece of it. But now the water is demanding its part. With an estimated sea level rise of 1 meter, New York is facing an increasing threat from the sea.
The risk for New York City is very real. In fact, New York City has already been flooded. In the 1950s, there was a big flood. In 1992, there was a winter storm that flooded, and actually a subway station in New Jersey just behind me, across the river, filled up with seawater. Seawater is very corrosive. It conducts electricity, so the whole electric subway system was shut down for up to 10 days. Trains were trapped under the Hudson River behind me. It was very serious.
Every day, millions of people rely on the subway. And because of its vulnerability to flooding, it's necessary to adapt, but adaptation plans take time to implement.
We're walking towards a new subway station that's been built called South Ferry. It's underground, of course. It's a $500 million project. It's built to withstand a 100-year storm. But we could have a 100-year storm next week, next month. So it just depends what the risk is, you see. So I would have thought that in this discussion of climate change that we would have suggested that they build the sides higher. And the same comment applies to the entrance, the passenger entrance across the street here. It's also very low. It's right close to the water's edge. The city likes to keep the subway entrances at street level. So people come off the street, they go straight into the subway, and people don't like having to climb up and then down again to go down a hole in the ground. And so it's a convenience factor, but it would seem to me it would be safer if they'd built the entrance up 1 or 2 meters. And it would be easy to do, and now's the time to do it.
The Metropolitan Transport Authority is well aware of the vulnerability of their transport system. A commission investigated what needs to be done and came up with a set of recommendations. They are working hard to get the cooperation of the city and the government, but adaptation is still at an early stage.
It's no question that the new things that we build will take into consideration all of the climate adaptation forecast. You know, we're part of several working groups along with the City of New York and the State of New York to reach a set of shared assumptions about what the risk is in 2020 and what the risk is in 2050. So as we build new facilities or renovate old facilities, we'll take all of this into account. It was built to meet certain standards, probably for a 100-year flood. But, you know, the United States in general, including this region, hasn't spent a lot of time quantifying climate adaptation. The U.S. to some degree has only really begun to focus on climate mitigation, right? Reducing greenhouse gases. And all the talk in the U.S. really is focused on reducing greenhouse gases. Climate adaptation is not as an exciting subject as climate mitigation and greenhouse gases. And so the U.S. and this region have not been as, shall we say, as swift as people in the EU and people in Japan to really begin to focus on climate adaptation. But we hope to catch up. We think that there's a lot to learn from Japan, from the Netherlands, and to some degree, probably even from Venice.
Jeroen Aerts is a professor at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam and studies the impact of climate change on coastal cities in the world. In Greenland, he meets his colleague Conrad Steffen.
That's correct. When I was here in 1990, this whole fjord was one big wall of icebergs. You couldn't see a horizon. Now you can see the ocean, and they're much higher. And the reason for that is that the ice is moving faster into the ocean, and if the ice moves fast, it gets thinner.
If you have, let's say, a horizon of 100 years, what would you say to city planners? Do they have to invest right now in adaptation, or would you say, like, well, you can wait another 50 years?
What we can see right now in Greenland, it has changed over the last 10 years, has tripled the ice loss. So it actually is not a very slow, it is suddenly increasing. If I would give an advice to city planners, I think we have to look at mitigation and at solutions now, because in 50 years maybe it's already too late.